East Rutherford, New Jersey. July 19, 2026. 90 minutes gone in the World Cup final and the team dominating every stat sheet still had nothing to show for it. 20 shots, 66% possession, 0 goals. Nobody could remember the last time a team controlled a World Cup final this completely without scoring inside 90 minutes. This is the story of how Spain almost let the perfect campaign slip through their hands, and how, in the end, they didn't. Fast forward past the final whistle, a substitute strike, extra time, separating glory from heartbreak. A captain lifts a trophy over his head, while an entire continent falls silent. But to understand this moment, we have to go back to a locker room nobody expected to matter. Months earlier, this squad wasn't even the outright favorite in most expert predictions. Pundits pointed to other nations with flashier attacks. Nobody was writing think pieces about Spain. That was about to become a very expensive mistake. There's a pattern in football history. The teams everyone underestimates are usually the ones building something quietly, away from the headlines. Spain was doing exactly that. A new generation of players, a coaching staff willing to build around instinct instead of reputation, and a plan that almost nobody outside the camp fully understood until it was too late for anyone to stop it. This is the hidden truth behind Spain's 2026 campaign, not a story of dominance from day one. It's a story of doubt, a shaky start, and a team that had to fight for every inch of belief. But here's the twist almost nobody remembers now. This run to the title nearly stumbled before it even reached the knockout rounds. Spain's opening match ended not in a win, but in a result nobody predicted, a scoreless draw against a team playing in its very first World Cup. Let's rewind further. Spain didn't arrive in North America as outsiders. They came as reigning European champions, fresh off winning Euro 2024. But international pedigree means nothing if you can't back it up on the biggest stage of all. There were questions about the squad long before the tournament began. Could a team built around such a young core handle the pressure of a World Cup? One name kept coming up more than any other. Lionel. 2 years earlier, at just 16 years old, he'd become the youngest scorer in European Championship history. By the time the World Cup arrived, he'd just turned 19, and he was no longer a promising kid. He was the player opponents built entire game plans around. There was history here too. A year before the World Cup, Spain had beaten France 5-4 in a nations league thriller, with Yamal scoring twice. This wasn't a rivalry starting fresh in 2026. It had been building for years. Head coach Luis de la Fuente had a choice most managers would never dare to make. Build around caution and experience, or build around a generation still writing its own story. He chose the second option, and he never looked back. By the time the tournament arrived, nobody outside the camp truly knew what this Spain side had become. That uncertainty, that mystery, is exactly what made what happened next so remarkable. The 2026 World Cup itself was unlike anything football had seen, the biggest edition in history. Hosted across 3 countries, with more teams, more matches, and more pressure than any tournament before it. Into that chaos walked a Spanish squad that had everything to prove, and on paper, nothing guaranteed. Group H, Spain's opening match, and instead of the statement win everyone expected, they were held to a scoreless draw by Cape Verde. A nation playing in its first-ever World Cup had just neutralized one of the tournament favorites. For a team many had already crowned as one of the favorites, this was not the start anyone had scripted. Critics reached for their keyboards almost immediately. But inside that camp, there was no panic, just a quiet, stubborn belief that one result wouldn't define an entire tournament. They were right. Spain regrouped and won their remaining group matches. They finished top of Group H. The doubts hadn't disappeared. They'd just been pushed back to the knockout stage, where they'd have to be answered for real. The round of 32 brought Austria to Miami. And this time, there was no hesitation. Spain dismantled their opponents with total control. One win doesn't undo weeks of criticism, but it does something almost as powerful: it buys belief. And Spain was about to need every bit of it. Waiting in the round of 16, Portugal, and this wasn't just another knockout match. Everyone inside that stadium knew they might be watching Cristiano Ronaldo play his final World Cup match. Two completely different storylines walked into Dallas Stadium that night. A legend chasing one last impossible chapter, and a new generation trying to prove they belonged on the same stage. The first half was tense and shot high but goal-shy. Mikel Oyarzabal spurned Spain's best chance, pulling a golden opportunity wide after Dani Olmo had sent him clean through on goal. Portugal's goalkeeper, Diogo Costa, produced a moment of brilliance of his own. He tipped a curling effort from Alex Bina around the post when it looked destined for the net. And then Ronaldo threatened, the way he always has. Nuno Mendes' deflected drive crashed off the crossbar. For a split second, the entire stadium held its breath, wondering if the legend's storybook ending was about to write itself. It didn't. The second half grew cautious, both sides more careful. Both aware that one mistake could end their tournament completely. Then, right on the cusp of extra time, two substitutes combined. Ferran Torres set up Mikel Merino, who drilled a powerful, precise finish into the net. 1-goal stoppage time. Spain 1, Portugal 0. Cristiano Ronaldo's World Cup story ended that night in Dallas. Spain's story kept going. The quarterfinal brought Belgium, a side that had just knocked out co-host United States to get there. Dangerous, battle-tested, and hungry. Fabian Ruiz gave Spain the lead they wanted, calm and clinical. For a moment, it looked like another comfortable step toward the semi-final. Then came the twist nobody had seen coming all tournament. Belgium found an equalizer, the first goal Spain had conceded in the entire competition. 7 matches of a perfect defensive record, gone in an instant. For the first time all tournament, Spain had to find out what they were made of when things weren't going their way. The answer came from the same man who delivered against Portugal. Mikel Merino, Spain's super sub, struck again to make it 2-1. Spain were through to a semi-final against one of the tournament's most feared attacking sides, France. To understand what Spain was walking into, you have to understand what France had already survived to get there. France's own road ran through Paraguay in the round of 16, a tense 1-0 win built on a moment of magic from Kylian Mbappé. Then Morocco in the quarterfinal, where Mbappé struck again, his 8th goal of the tournament. Enough to send France through and put him level atop the Golden Boot standings. This was a France side entering the semi-final as the form team of the entire competition. 6 straight wins, a staggering 16 goals scored against just 2 conceded. The 2018 champions, the 2022 runners-up, nobody in the building expected an easy night for Spain. Most predictions going in gave France the slight edge. On paper, they had the most feared attacking line left in the tournament: Mbappé, Ousmane Dembélé, Bradley Barcola, Michael Olise. On paper, this was France's semi-final to lose. For 22 minutes, the game was cagey, both sides testing each other. Then Lamine Yamal, a day after turning 19, got to a falling ball a fraction before French left-back Lucas Digne. Digne clipped him inside the box. Penalty, Spain. Mikel Oyarzabal stepped up and sent goalkeeper Mike Maignan the wrong way. 1-0 Spain just before the half-hour mark. What followed was one of the most complete defensive performances of the entire tournament. Spain's back line swallowed up Mbappé, Dembélé, Olise, and Doué, the players who'd terrorized every other opponent. In the 58th minute, Pedro Porro and Dani Olmo combined for a perfect give-and-go. Porro slotted the return past Maignan, 2-0. France, the tournament's most feared attacking unit, finished the match with barely a shot on target. No penalties needed, no extra time required, just a defensive masterclass. Spain, the team that opened this tournament with a scoreless draw against World Cup debutants, had just shut out the tournament favorites. They were through to the final for the first time since they won the whole thing in 2010. Waiting for them in New Jersey, Argentina, a team with its own storyline built around a name that needed no introduction. Lionel Messi, 39 years old, playing in what almost everyone assumed would be his final World Cup match. Argentina had their own hard-fought road, a knockout win over Egypt and a tense victory over England to reach the final. Two completely different stories about to collide under the same floodlights. One team chasing history for a new generation. One legend chasing one final piece of a career that had already given football everything. From the opening whistle, Spain controlled the match, patient, probing, dominant in possession. But Argentina had one man standing between them and disaster, goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez. Save after save, Martinez kept his team alive. 90 minutes came and went with the score still level at 0-0. Late in normal time, Yamal stepped up to a free kick that had match winner written all over it. Martinez read it perfectly. Here's a stat that says everything about how the 90 minutes went. Argentina did not register a single shot in the entire first half. That had never happened before in a World Cup final. Extra time began, and the pressure only intensified. Then, deep into stoppage time before the extra period, Argentina's Enzo Fernandez picked up a second yellow card and was sent off, down to 10 men. In the 106th minute, substitute Nico Williams found fellow substitute Ferran Torres with a cross. Torres finished first time, 1-0 Spain. When the final whistle blew, Spain were world champions for the second time in their history, 16 years after their first. Remember the hook at the start of this video? This is that exact moment. The team nobody trusted standing on top of the football world. Think about the full arc. A scoreless draw in match 1, a conceded goal that nearly ended the run against Belgium, a masterclass against the tournament's form team, and a final decided 37 seconds into a decisive burst of extra time. For Ronaldo and Messi, this tournament likely marked the end of their World Cup stories. And for coach Luis de la Fuente, the gamble on youth made him the oldest manager ever to win the trophy. That's the hidden story behind Spain's 2026 title, a team doubted from the first whistle that turned every crack in its own campaign into the reason it won. Next time on Football Untold, Qatar, 2022, and the team that nearly stopped this dynasty before it started. Subscribe, this series is just getting started.